Smile takes what should be a universally comforting expression and turns it into a horrible portent. But does it have more than an interesting gimmick to keep me on edge until the end? Stick around and I'll share my thoughts. I'm Paeter from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Smile. The synopsis on IMDb reads, after witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. All right, so what is this basic animal? Well, I think it follows what I would call the timed curse formula. There's probably some other name for it. But that formula is possibly made most famous by the Ring series of films, in which a disturbing event starts a supernatural countdown to something else far worse that the protagonist or other characters experience. But despite the supernatural premise, most of this movie feels to me very much like psychological horror, with scenes of both accidental and intentional self-harm and moody suspense driven by a soundtrack filled with eerie, discordant sounds. It also employs modest but recurring jump scares, which, while effective at scaring me, are my least favorite source of scares in a movie for their lack of power against me after the first viewing. But Smile still kept me on edge with its effective mood setting, much of which was accomplished by the performances. Part of the main character's backstory involves the death of her mother when she was very young, and for a few minutes in the last fourth of the movie, I felt like addressing that plot element took some suspense out of the movie, but soon after, the suspense got back on track and really kept me leaning in again until the end. As far as the cast goes, Sosie Bacon, if that's how you pronounce her name, plays the main character, Dr. Rose Cotter, and it's her emotional and manic deterioration portrayed over the course of the movie that really helped me buy into the terror of her experience. Horror movies, I think, aren't given enough credit for how they leverage skilled and emotive actors. And this is an example of how a strong emotional performance can do a lot to carry a film, to really set the mood and to help you engage with the horror of the circumstances. Several supporting actors I also felt were really strong in depicting their panicked meltdowns, which was sometimes then juxtaposed with eerie and sinister grins frozen on their faces. So I was really happy, I think, with all the performances here. As far as stunts and visuals go, most of the effects are practical, which I often prefer, although near the end there is some digital effects and some makeup effects, some of which worked really well, although there was a makeup design for the antagonist near the end that didn't quite feel right to me, and it kind of took some power away from a few seconds here and there in one of the closing sequences. But otherwise, I don't have any complaints, and found that the overall style of photography and shot composition only served to heighten the tense mood and make me wonder what horrible thing might happen next. A few shots even seemed cleverly designed to throw off horror movie veterans by leaving empty space in the shot, having maybe the main character just off to the left or off to the right, so big open space there. And what's going to often happen? That empty space is going to get filled by a jump scare. That's just a very classic move, but that's not necessarily what's going to happen in Smile. And so I loved how that's just one example, but those kinds of photography choices and other things visually going on kept me second guessing when the jumps would come, and kept me in this kind of a oppressive, weighty, heavy mood throughout the entire movie. As far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? You know, the way they talk about the curse, the antagonist, might bring to mind maybe some reports of real supernatural experiences and issues with demons and things like that you'll sometimes hear people talk about. I don't think that it's really drawing from real world examples heavily. It's mostly doing the timed curse shtick. There is a significant subplot for the main character involving the guilt that she feels regarding the circumstances of her mother's death by suicide. And at the end of that through line are some thematic beats related to dealing with past trauma, dealing with guilt that one feels, visuals, but ultimately the movie seems much more interested in scaring me than in giving time to really let those themes say something. On a more psychological level, I do wonder, in stories like this, if they might possibly increase our discomfort around those who are mentally ill. I think it certainly plays off the natural discomfort or fear that we have when we're in the room with someone who is acting strangely because of a mental disorder. We might, in those situations, feel uneasy, maybe even in danger. But I do sometimes wonder if stories like this also feed those fears in unhealthy ways that might make it harder for us to want to visit and care for those with severe mental health conditions. I don't know. I'm just this wild speculation on my part. If that were to turn out to be the case, it may be that these kinds of movies would be wise for us to avoid as Christians. And in the meantime, it might be wise for us to just kind of monitor ourselves and, okay, what kind of thoughts are coming to mind when I hesitate about taking advantage of an opportunity to go care for someone or visit someone that's in a nursing home that mentally, might be kind of like speaking incoherently or doing and saying other things that would make us uncomfortable. Is there some remembrance of a past movie or a past story that is somehow informing our fear or discomfort or hesitancy in wanting to do that? But apart from that kind of individual reflection, it is a subject I've thought now and then about getting around to seeing if I can find if there's some relevant study data for that. Anyway, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Paeter, this one's pretty good for a one-time viewing at Redbox pricing. The timed curse genre, as you call it, isn't normally your thing, and you won't need to own this one or watch it more than once, but it's worth an evening when you want to have a prolonged, tense experience with an unsettling concept and a modest number of jump scares. This one's rated R for strong, violent content and grisly images and language. And those are all my thoughts for now on Smile. As always, I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected to this content or share this content with other people. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. Really, really appreciate you guys. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/Spiritblade Productions. Then I hope you will check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.